Hello friends, welcome. Friends, today we are going to talk about a very important topic. Now before that, let me give you some outline. And for that I have to ask you a question. Let's say friends, if you are trying to learn a subject, any subject, it can be economics, maths, or any history, biology or anything. What do you need? The first fundamental knowledge, what you need? You need an understanding of English or Hindi on which that subject is written, right? So for that you do a lot of preparation and you understand the language. But you don't have to be an expert in that language, which means that you're not expected to write a poem or a book, a highly literary book, which can have the ability to win a Booker Prize or anything else. You simply have a basic understanding of the language so that you can understand the subject and grasp the subject which you are trying to learn, right? That's the whole objective of learning the language. Now, for example, if you are learning a subject like economics, which is data-centric, or there could be many other subjects which are data-centric. Apart from having understanding of the language, which will help you in grasp the subject matter, read the book, you need a fundamental understanding or some basic understanding of maths and coding. And why coding is essential is the reason why I'm doing this video. Okay. Now typically maths people learn in their schools up to 8th class, 10th class, and most people are reasonably proficient in maths, right? Whoever is trying to learn economics. But the coding becomes a challenge because it keeps on changing. The flavor of coding keeps on changing, for which you have to keep learning the subject, and sometimes it becomes a barrier. Now, why coding is important? Why people say that, the coding is absolutely essential for learning subject like economics is because when you are looking at the data, the presentation of the data could be biased because whoever is presenting the data, he may have inbuilt in some biases into that particular data, which might be difficult to unwind. And the second problem is that it is not easy to have the capability to look at the data from different angles, because once the data is presented in a particular manner and there are disjointed tables which are not joined together, it becomes very difficult to correlate, unlock the key insights that you want the data to unfold. Means ultimately the whole purpose is to unlock the story which the data is telling, and somebody else's presentation and the cluttered tables all over the place in different time scales, in different format, makes our lives extremely difficult. Excel may be of help, but Excel has got a lot of inflexibilities, and that's why Python has been inbuilt into Excel in the recent version of Excel, which is running on Windows. Mac version still does not have it. So today, why I'm doing this video is to show you that how simple it is to process raw data, to unlock value and unlock insight from the raw data, which will be fully under your control, and you don't have to become a coding expert. That is the whole purpose of this video. So friends, what I've done is that in order to do this video, I have chosen a specific data set. What is the data set? 50 macroeconomic indicators. And why I have chosen this data set, you will understand very clearly at the end of this video. Okay? There could be other data sets also I could have chosen, but this is very interesting data set. Why I have chosen this. Now, in order to save time, I have downloaded this data set in this Excel sheet, which I have saved in my hard disk. There are 4 tabs: weekly tab, fortnight tab, monthly tab, quarterly tab. I'm going to use the monthly tab for processing. And if you look at this monthly tab, there are various columns. And interestingly, every column has got a different unit. Consumer price index is just a number. Then you have got, there is commercial paper amount outstanding is rupees crores. Then net foreign direct investment is dollars. And then we have got some other units all over the place. Some ratio, dollars, everything is clubbed together in one single table. Now, what is the purpose of this exercise? The purpose of this exercise is to unlock a story in this data what kind of changes have happened. Now, if I going to feed this and convert this data first into a feedable form and then feed into a visualization program, it will become very difficult for you to visualize this data because of challenges of different units in different columns. So I'm going to talk about both. First, I'm going to talk about how easy it is to process this data and convert it in a form which can be fed into a visualization tool, and how to use that visualization tool in order to deal with data of multiple units. That's the whole purpose. Now, depending upon the amount of time I consume in order to do the raw data processing into a clean data which can be fed into the visualization tool, and then using the visualization tool to process that to visualize the data, depending upon the time, I'm going to split this video into two different parts or do it in a single video in one single chunk. So for that, I will need to go to my Jupyter Notebook. Now, if I go to my Jupyter Notebook where I created a demo sheet and I want to do a ground up understanding of the subject rather than basically showing you a code which I have already written, it doesn't solve the problem because I want to do it on the fly. What I've done is I have just written some of the basic code which is required, which are importing the libraries and then changing the folder path, because these are simple libraries everybody will know, which have got pandas, OS, and regular expression, then relative data. I'm going to show you why relative delta is required, and date time, importing date time, and NumPy. And then folder path is my current library path, and I'm going to change the folder path. Otherwise, I'm not able to read the data. So the first line of code is reading the raw Excel file, which name 50 macroeconomic indicators. And I'm going to read which sheet? The third sheet. So the first sheet is 0 index, second sheet is 1 index, and the third sheet is second index number 2. So I'll simply press enter. After having pressed enter, you look at the form of the data. The data will look a little cluttered and with a lot of nulls. I want to remove all these nulls from this sheet in order to process and make it much readable. Okay. Now, you will find that typically in an Excel sheet, there will be all rows, there will be the data frame will be such that there will be many rows which will be all nulls, and there will be many columns which will be all nulls. And we want to simply remove them because those are just redundant data. It doesn't serve any purpose. So for that, you need to do what? You need to drop NA. Now, simply drop NA. Let's say DF, I'm going to show you step by step. Drop NA. NA means nulls. Now, if I simply do drop NA, everything will get dropped. Even if there is one NA in a particular row and a column, it will get dropped. See, everything will get dropped. I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to specify a axis, either column or row. So I'll say axis is equal to 1, which is columns. And then I'll say how is equal to all. All means all, if all of them are null, then only you drop. So when I press this, you'll find that only those columns which are all nulls have got dropped. Similarly, I will make an attempt to see if there are any null rows or not, and I simply copy this, and in the same line what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the axis to 0, and I'll say press enter. So now the data frame will have no null columns and no null rows which are all nulls. Not there could be some 1 or 2 nulls here and there, but I don't want them to be dropped because that might clutter and change the structure of the data. Now I'm going to store this in a data frame. After having stored this in a data frame, what I want to identify the anchor column. Now the anchor column is very important. This is the principle in which you should process data. You have to identify the anchor column, the index column, which will be used later to identify each and every individual row, and you can use that index column to do merging and concatenation of data, because merging, sometimes there will be two tables which you need to merge. For that you need an index column which can be used to merge the two different data sets into one single table. So identifying index is absolutely crucial. So my index will be the date column. So what is that? This is the column number 1. Now this column number 1 is of a different type, unnamed. So I really don't want to deal with unnamed. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use a simple instruction, which is a column. Now when I say it's df.columns, all the columns are going to come. This is a list. So I'm going to use index 0, which is a column unnamed 1. And then when I enclose this in this rectangular parenthesis, what it will do is it will give me the date column, right? So what I want is that I don't want the date column right now. What I want is I want this date column to be converted into index, right? Because once we had the index, then I can deal with the rest of the rows. And if I find any of the rows which are null, all nulls, I'll remove them. That's the whole purpose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say df.set index, and then I am going to use this round brackets, and this is going to get set into index. After having done that, what I want to do, I want to use the same drop NA and axis is equal to 0, how is equal to all, so as to further clean up this data and see whether there are any null columns. Are there? See, it's got cleaned up now, and I'm going to save this in a data frame. Now, after having done that, what I want now, I don't want this unnamed. Unnamed is very much annoying to me. I want these to be named automatically based on the column identifiers, which is right there in front of you in the row index 0, right? So what you do is that you say df.columns and simply say df.iloc and then choose the row index 0 and all columns. After you have done that, you will find that the data frame will now have no unnames and this will have all the columns. Now once having set all the columns, I want to remove this row which is completely redundant now, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say df.iloc and then iloc, and then I'm going to use not row index 0, I'm going to use row index 1 and all rows beyond that, means all the rows except 0, and then all column indexes. So after having done that, you'll see that the row number 1 has vanished, and I'm going to store this in this data frame. But before that, I'm going to do reset index, because the date index is actually in the date column. The date index has now got translated into the index. So I want to reset it and convert it into a normal column. So I'll say reset index, and I'm not going to do drop is equal to true because I want this index to be retained, right? So when I say press enter, and if I look at the data, you'll find that the index has been named as unnamed 1. Now I don't want the index to be named as unnamed 1, so I'll say that rename, right, columns is equal to open a dictionary, copy this, right, and say this and under inverted commas, and then you say this is date, right, and close the bracket and you say enter. So what it will happen is you'll see that your data frame is going to look like this. So there must be some problem here. Let me see what is the problem here. Yeah, so I press enter. So the unnamed column is going to be converted into date because there was a problem here. I put a comma here, right? So then I convert this, then I stored this here, and now the data frame is looking like this. Now the next step is to convert this date, because if you look at the date column, you will see that the date column actually has, if I say unique, you will see that the date column is in this format, which is unusable. So whenever you are dealing with data and if there is a date index, make sure that you convert into date time. And for that you don't have to import date time. It can be done using a pandas function. So you say pd2, and this is very, very important, by the way. Always do that. Date time, and then simply say df and that column, the same column, date, right, and then say press enter. Now what is it doing is, normally I should have used date utility function, so but it will give you a warning and it will get converted. But there is a problem here. The problem is that this had only month and year, so by default it has taken the first day, and I want the last day of the month. So first what I'm going to do, I'm going to store this into date, right, column, replace the original date column with the converted date column. So now you have the df data frame with date like this. But this is not going to satisfy me, because when I say 24th June, I want 30th June 2024, not 1st June 2024, because I want the date to be marked as end of the month. For that, it is very simple. I use a list comprehension. Now the relative date, this particular library which I have imported, which is called relative delta, it is going to come in handy, and you will find it very simple. So when I say date, and then what I am going to do is that list comprehension is a very powerful tool as far as Panda is concerned, and everybody should learn it. So for x, right? So for x, so I'll say that for x in df date. I'm just showing you how it's basically going to work, and then I'm going to use relative delta. So what it is doing is it is going to list all the values. If I run this, you'll find that all the values, date values, are going to get listed here. But I don't want this to be in this particular format. I'll just simply say clear cell output. Here I am going to add relative delta. So I'll say relative, then I'll say DLTA, relative delta, and then I say month is equal to 1, means I'm shifting that date by 1 month forward, and then I'm going to say days, right, days is equal to -1. You understand now? So I'm shifting this by 1 month and back by 1 day, and that is going to, and it is going to be add, it is not equal to, it is going to be plus. So when I do that, you'll find that the dates are going to get converted into end of the month. It's a very powerful way of doing it, and I've always basically used this method to convert the first day into end of the month day. Okay. Then what I do is I'm going to store this whole list into the date. Okay. Now after having done that, I have the data frame in this format. See. Now what I do is, this is a horizontal data frame, not usable. I am going to now convert this into a vertical data frame, and invariably learn this function is going to be very handy, right? Which is melt. So I'll say PD, which is a pandas function. I'll say melt. After using melt, what I do, I put the data frame DF and then ID vars. ID vars means that it's basically looking at the index. How many index that you want from the column. You can basically identify multiple column as index. So for me, I only want the date column to be as index of the merged data frame. Then I say var names. Var names means what are the name of the variable that you want, right? So var name is what? Name of the column, which will all the variables will be. These are the column, these are the variables will be listed in that particular column. So I'll say metric, right? TRIC metric. And then var value names, value, there will be one column with value names. So I'll name that as value. Okay. And I say enter. Sorry, there is a problem here. What happened? Var names, I melt. Var. Yeah, so the problem was that it is var name, not names, right? So it's var name, value name, right? Because there is only one column, they are not multiple. Why it is ID var? Because there could be multiple indexes. So that's the difference. Now I simply store this here. Data frame. Now you have a data frame in this particular form, right? There is a column called metric, there is a column with value, and there is a column with date. Now if I do metric here, it can be metric description, whatever you want. So I say metric, and after using metric, if I say unique, right, and if I press enter, you will find that this is the way it will look. Lot of clutter here. Now comes the time saving effort that you need to do. Rather than doing it with your own, you can take help of ChatGPT. So you have to convert this into list first. To list. Sorry, list will be together, not with slash. So once you've done that, you just copy this and you go to ChatGPT and you tell I have done it earlier, so I'll use a new tab and I'll say that, can you please remove all clutter and clean up this list and give me in a format which I can cut and paste and used in my Python code. Okay, so I'll just simply say enter, and what it will do is start cleaning up the list and start giving the list. Okay, so this is the way. So you see all the clutter, because otherwise you would have used regular expression. There is no need to, right? Then what you do is that you say that can you please shorten the description in this list. Okay, and give me the output. So what it will do, it will just shorten the description and make it much more palatable, readable. So it's good enough, right? The third thing that you do is that you have to create a dictionary, because this is not going to be useful to you, right? You need a dictionary, and I'll tell you why dictionary is required, right? So then I say, can you map this into a dict using the original names as keys and these as values. Okay, so it will basically convert this into a dictionary. You see, this is a dictionary, it is going to convert. Now this will become very useful. Once you have done this dictionary, when this has been converted into dictionary, you simply copy it. After having copied this, you go here and you name this dictionary as description, DSC, dict. And then you just simply copy this and press enter. Now this is stored here. Then you go to the original data frame and you say replace. And then you copy this dict and you simply paste here and you say enter. Now you will see that your metric column is going to become much more cleaner than what it was earlier. Store this here and you press enter. After I have done that, what you do? You simply have to save this into disk. So you say dir to CSV and you save this. They typically don't change the name. It will become very confusing. So go here, copy this name, right? Make it very simple. Otherwise, if you start to change names, then you will not remember the next time when you deal with the same data. So I say CSV and I don't need the index. So I say index is equal to false, right? And I say press enter. Now after having stored this, you'll find that this will get stored here right now, right? This is 10:31. I'm recording this video right now, 10:31, and if I open this here, you'll find that the data is going to be in this particular format. I'll just let it come. Yeah, this is the format of, no, this is not this. This is the format of the data. I'm going to show you the data. This is the format of the data, right? So this is how the data will look. There is some blank columns here, which is required because the original data frame is having some blanks here. See, there are certain blanks here, right, in the data. So similarly, when you go here, and if I go here and place enter, I'll say filter using data, and let me just do data, and I say filter, and in the value column, if I go here, and I choose down below, and I choose blanks, and there could be some dash here which I have to convert later. So these are the dash and these are the, so dash should have been converted, but I forgot to convert, which is very simple to do, which you can do it right now also. You can replace all the dash with nulls, right? Actually everybody knows that, how to do it, right? So this is the first part of the video. I don't think I have time to do the second part of the video. And I will do a second part of the video to show you how simply this data frame with different units can be visualized with a very powerful way, which you can give you a lot of insight of the data. You don't have to change units, nothing, but you will be able to get a very good picture about how to look at this data from various angles. So that will be the next part of the video. So thank you if you have liked this video, and let me know If you have any feedback or any kind of suggestion in the description video, I will come back with the next part today itself, right? Just after uploading this video in the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be back again. Thanks a lot.